and Mary Bland.
Hey, you two live in the building. You must swing, right?
Wrong. Good night. We're so lucky to have found each other.
A typical American couple.
I know. Good night, dear.
Sweet dreams.
With a typical American dream. And typical American problems.
You are through at Clay Liquor.
Mr. Leach, I'm sure the bank has nothing to worry about. It's going to get everything that's coming to it.
The bank wants to see what it's getting into.
With the Blands, life was just a rat race.
A cartoon mouse.
Oh, great. Trigger likes you already.
Oh, we like B&D, but we don't like S&M. We met at the A&P.
But they found a way to beat it. Until
Mr. Raoul Mendoza, como está usted?
they met a hot-blooded, emotional, crazy Chicano.
I'm a hot-blooded, emotional, crazy Chicano.
Eating Raoul. Is it a thriller? Is it a romance?
This was very wrong.
Is it a tragedy?
Excuse me. May I sit down?
Is it a comedy?
Yes, but not the type you're used to.
Eating Raoul. Rated R.
All right, everybody, we're here for a very special episode of 1982 horror film to be covered, or kind of a horror film, and we're doing Eating Raoul. We're here with James L. Edwards, the actor and director. How you doing, James?
Real good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Here to talk about a dark comedy, I would say, that is horror adjacent for sure. Directed by Paul Bartel and starring Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov, a classic duo that had been in probably over a dozen films together. But yeah, this is one of the quintessential black comedies. Wonderful movie in the vein of kind of I'd say John Waters light. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny too because Eating Raoul is easily in my top 20 of all time.
Yeah.
So any chance that I get any chance I can to talk about the movie, I'm all about it. So
yeah. So the history of making this, Paul Bartel had done a couple like indie movies, and then he went on to direct Private Parts in 1972, and MGM picked it up. They did a shitty job distributing it, and it kind of flopped. So he ended up back working for Roger Corman, like so many great directors did, like Alan Arkish and Joe Dante and Jonathan Demme. And he worked his way up through the ranks, directing eventually Death Race 2000, which was a hit, and it had his comedy and satire in it. Mm-hmm. And that led to him wanting to make something else, Eating Raoul, with Mary Woronov, and they went ahead and did it, and they were a duo ever since. A lot of people actually believe they were married, but Paul Bartel was openly gay, so I mean, That's not really, yeah. What was the first time you saw this? Any things you want to talk about the history of making this? Anything? Any insights?
I actually saw this movie for the first time way too young. I want to say I was probably 10 or 11, thanks to an uncle who kind of instilled on me the love of films in general. So it was one of those where I had already seen at that point Death Race 2000, and I think that was it as far as Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov. But just I love the dynamic of the two of them together. Anytime they would do a cameo together in something, it would always elevate a film. And it cracks me up too, because you brought up the fact that a lot of people thought that they were a couple. I always aspired, like back in the 90s when I was working working for Tempe Video, Ariana Albright and I had always aspired to be the no-budget Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov, and my hope is that we were able to pull that off. But yeah, I just absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, I think the first time I watched this movie, I think it was probably about 10 years ago, honestly.
Really?
And yeah, I watched it, and I don't remember if I watched it shortly before, or right after my dad died. I think it was, I watched it once before my dad died, and then when I was like kind of the weird phase when you're everybody's mourning, I put it on just to make myself feel better, because it's got this kind of like, this is my like kind of lightheartedness. It's right. And very light in its way it's portrayed, with the music and the silliness and the sitcominess of it, or I guess you'd say. But what they're saying is so dark and messed up, and that's kind of Paul Bartel's style, right? He is goofy and silly in the way he delivers things, but if you actually look at the subject matter on paper, it's incredibly dark. Like in the Death Race, he's hitting like, you know, pregnant women, and he had an argument with Corman. He said he's basically like, if I make it serious, it's not going to work. It's too dark. But if it's comedic, it's brilliant. You know what I mean? Like you can do anything as long as it's looked at as satire or comedy. You know, the whole line,
absolutely.
Like, I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. You know, and that's what makes this so brilliant. But I adore this movie, and it's funny because in 1982 you have this stage play that was recorded as Sweeney Todd, and this is a lot like Sweeney Todd and the pair, that odd couple, and that stage play is one with Angela Lansbury is amazing. It's incredible. I love that play. And then you also have what's the other one that kind of rounded me up? They said it was out like when they were making this, they kind of the writer kind of had inspiration from Honeymoon Killers from 1970.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Also a brilliant, really dark crime film, but a little bit more serious and very depressing actually, even though it's very funny.
Yeah.
This cast is amazing too. Great cast.
And it's not just Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov too. Everybody is just amazing, and it still cracks me up for such a very low budget film. Having people like Buck Henry and Ed Begley Jr. However early Ed Begley Jr. was still early in his career, but Buck Henry was pretty known at this point. So having the two of them together it was a real take for that. And Robert Beltran is fantastic as Raoul
great in it
as well.
Great performance. Very funny. And it's played straight enough, but it's so hard. It would be so hard to play that role. Like he said, he basically based it on, he kind of went for the obsession that George C. Scott had in Dr. Strangelove. Like reading the interviews, he's like, I had to have an obsession because I felt like the obsession would be the comedy, and he was right. He's really funny in that. He's like, I'm a hot-blooded chicken. Like every line in here is brilliant, and you don't catch how funny it is.
Right. Well, it's a multiple viewing kind of film.
Yeah.
Because the first time you see it, you're kind of in shock because, again, I love movies that are putting two genres together that have no business being together, and this is the quintessential film like that. And even some of the kind of throwaway scenes, like John Paragon's cameo as the sex club or the sex shop worker, is just absolutely hysterical. And who would have guessed that this guy later would be Zombie on Pee-wee's Playhouse? You know, he's just phenomenal in it.
Paul Rubens got him that role. They wanted Paul Rubens to do it out, and I think, what was he too busy this year doing? Was it Pandemonium he was in?
Probably more than likely, yeah. I didn't realize that he was supposed to do that. That's great.
They asked him to do it, and he said, well, I can't do it, but this guy. Alfred Soul movie, not as good as Alice, Sweet Alice. Let's just leave it at that.
Right.
Not quite as good. Where was I getting at? I was going to mention, this movie has one of my all-time favorite lines in here, and you can basically just sum up life and death in this. Honey, I just killed a man. Well, now he's he's not a man. Now he's garbage, honey. Something like that. Like I said, he's garbage. And it's just brilliant. They put the garbage bags, just pull them in the garbage bags. And it is very satirical. And it is like, they said when they were making this, they never really planned for it to come across like kind of any, like, I guess you're saying like any message in it, like messaging. But while they were making it, it kind of came out, the idea that these like uptight middle class, like people stuck in the 50s, which is another kind of thing, right? The 80s are basically a repeat of the 50s. If you look at, you know, The Thing getting remade and Cat People was a 40s movie, but you have that reflection of the 50s on the 80s, and their furniture is 50s, and they become these kind of weirdo, kind of like classic 50s like conservatives killing everybody, where they're like, yeah, the sexual stuff is all messed up, they sleep in separate beds like old sitcom, but we can kill some people and make some stuff, and that's perfectly fine, which is just fun. But you love these two, you're on their side, you're like, yeah, kill those perverts. And it's just like when you watch it,
the thing that's fun about that too is and Paul Bartel was kind of known for this, to have like little blink and you'll miss it kind of things throughout his movie. And if you notice that separate bed kind of situation, Paul has a stuffed animal of a wine bottle that he sleeps with. And it's adorable. It's so amazing. And it's like, oh my God.
There's also a really, I should mention Ed Begley's also in Cat People, the remake this year.
Oh yeah.
And it's a small role. You know, like he wasn't really a household name at this point, but his dad had name recognition. So it's still cool that he pops up in here. And actually probably the scariest role. I know a lot of people dog on this movie, like the modern audience when they first see it, because it's a lot of like rape jokes. The whole movie is just people trying to rape Mary Woronov, and they just kill them off, and it's just like I know it's nasty and kind of dark and just unpleasant at the time, but it's also played so lighthearted, which could make it more offensive to people, but there's actually no rape that takes place. And
right. Well, my argument with that has always been the villains always get their comeuppance in the film. Yeah. So what are you complaining about? You know, it's like I can say this much. I mean, for as many people have complained about that, this film in no way condones or rewards rapists. So, no. I mean...
where was I going? I kind of left out. Thinking about Paul Bartel in this, his delivery. I love his kind of deadpanness and everything like that. He's such pretentious douchebag. The idea of their restaurant, I don't remember what they're going to call it originally.
Shea Bland.
Yeah, and then they're like, we'll just name it Paul and Mary's Country Kitchen. Can we still call those the bland enchiladas, which is just like the ultimate like white person like Mexican food night joke, right? The bland enchiladas that they would make. There's just tons of little clever stuff like that you don't pick up on at first. That's just in there within the dialogue that becomes more and more comical as it goes on. And it also reminds me of a movie that's one of my personal favorites. So you don't realize how many movies it inspired with just kind of like the couple that are awkward and weird and killing people. Psychos in Love. It's very much
absolutely.
a Psychos in Love riff, and you don't register. I never did. I think I might have saw Psychos in Love first, which is
it's so funny because obviously Psychos in Love was inspired by Eating Raoul. And to be quite frank, I know Matt Walsh would never admit it, but I can say this much. I took the role in Bloodletting because it reminded me of Psychos in Love. So my idea was, when they were in talks about a sequel, I wanted to do basically a spoof of marriage. We had already done a spoof as far as relationships. I wanted the second one to be about marriage and the third one to be about parenthood with serial killers. And the idea was we were going to actually meet Ari and mine's parents in the film. And I desperately wanted Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov to play my parents and get, Carmine Capabianca as her father. I knew that Debbie Theobald from Psychos in Love was no longer acting. And according to the supposed lore, Ari's character's mom was murdered by me anyway, so it's like but it just unfortunately never came to be. I thought that would be a nice kind of thank you to everybody, where it's like that you guys inspired this movie, so let's get this going. You know,
that would have actually been completely brilliant. I never really registered that you're in one of my favorite movies, and it's one of those like weird, awkward, quirky couple going around killing people.
I mean, Eating Raoul and Psychos in Love were 100% inspirations for Bloodletting. Most definitely. I think this is part of the reason why part of the reason I took the role, again, was because I love both of those movies so much, and to kind of fit within that same genre was an honor.
Yeah, it definitely is in that genre. So another thing is how quirky and lighthearted the music is. Like, if you put this on in the background, you would never guess what somebody is watching.
Oh, yeah.
And it just adds, like, you can get away with literal murder with this movie because how the tone is.
What's funny about that is I'm not super knowledgeable about Arlene Ober as a composer. The only other thing that I knew about him aside from Eating Raoul was he replaced... the studio replaced Joseph. I forget what it was. Sam Raimi's normal composer. They replaced him with Arlene Ober for Crime Wave.
Yeah.
But aside from that, in both cases, he's got such a fun, lighthearted, and you brought up the fact sitcom. 150%. That's exactly what this feels like, is a very, very twisted sitcom, and the majority of that is because of Arlene Ober's score.
Yeah. Also, like mentioning the little quirky reoccurrences, like the little. Hope you don't have any. Do you guys have anything valuable in the house? And he picks up the little squishy doll that pops up. The thing is, I didn't do as much in-depth research about this movie because I don't know if it's, I know that the budget was somewhere roughly either $500,000 or I've seen $250,000, and $500,000, and I've seen it grossed up to $5 to $10 million.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
It was a fairly big hit.
it had, I'm trying to think. I know I was very shocked because it had an official comic book release too that I was able to grab. And I ended up getting that because when I used to years ago run a CD and DVD store in Ohio. And one of our regulars, we just happened to be on the conversation of eating Raoul. And it turned out that this guy used to date Paul Bartel. And he basically like, yeah, I've still got a bunch of his stuff. Would you like it? This was after Paul's passing. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want it. So I was able to get a couple of press passes and like convention lapels that he had and whatnot. And in the box was the Eating Raoul comic book. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
So did you ever see the musical?
I did not.
Me either.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the biggest musical fan. So that I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much. It's the same issue that I had with, like, I love John Waters, but I've never seen the Hairspray musical.
No,
it's like same with Little Shop of Horrors. I know that was based on the musical, and I love the movie, the Frank Oz film, and the Roger Corman one.
Oh, they both are good, yeah.
But I can't imagine me sitting in a theater watching a live performance of it. You know.
I used to feel that way until I saw some musicals, and when they're good, they're great. But I've seen a couple musicals versions of movies that were fucking unwatchable.
Yeah,
like so tone deaf, like they missed the complete meaning. Like I was watching the Beetlejuice one is particularly dog shit. Horrible. Yeah, like it's not poorly acted. It's just some of the worst writing of all time. It's like might as well be Shrek of Beetlejuice, where it's just like reference 10 years ago. It's bad. I don't even understand where that was coming from. I think this would work as a musical. You know, I think this one actually would because it has the weird kind of goofy element, and it has like it could be easily adapted to music. Yeah.
Well, I mean, realistically, they can pretty much do it with if they did it with Evil Dead, they can pretty much do it with anything now. So.
Yeah. So this movie, they were originally planning a sequel, and they had it pretty much good to go. And then 10 days, I guess, before it was good to go, they pulled the plug on it, which would have been them actually doing their restaurant. And they had this whole elaborate, weird story about like a politician not being able to get to the restaurant. He had to wait like everybody else, and they like started targeting him, and they went back and forth. And I think that even they were going to get involved in politics. It just sounded like a hoot. It sounded like a blast, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. Any idea why it fell through?
The company, I can't remember who it was, pulled the plug on the budget 10 days before they were going to shoot.
Stinks.
It's really shitty. Yeah. I mean, if we could have had a sequel, I think it would have probably been as brilliant. His other films, I remember really liking Private Parts, and Shelf Life was kind of lost for a long time, and that just recently got put back out on Blu-ray. That's kind of an interesting film about, that whole sub-genre where it's like, hey, we're trapped in like a bomb shelter, and we're all weird and created our own world. That's like a weird subgenre, and all the movies.
See, I didn't even know.
Different.
I didn't know Shelf Life got a release. I'll have to grab that. I did check out Not for Publication, which was interesting. It's nowhere near Eating Raoul, but it was an interesting film. Same with what was it? I always mess up the title. The Class Struggles movie of Beverly Hills that he did.
I'm not sure. I don't remember that.
I mean, it was fun. Again, I don't think Death Race 2000 and Eating Raoul were definitely his defining pieces, in my opinion. Yeah. But I've never seen anything that I didn't like of his. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. As far as acting, Bartel's great in all his little small roles. Like I remember him. He even pops up in Posse, which has got to be one of the. That whole cast is just like a very strange cast altogether. You know, what I mean? If you take who's in that. And Mary Warnoff's career has always been great for popping up in television. Yeah. Those are swingers. Yeah, because the bed pops up. Who's the Elvira in that one?
I'm not sure. I you know what? Now you got me curious.
Franklin's in that one. Diane Franklin and John Grease are in that movie, or Grise. And Burt Remsen's in that film. Mary Warnoff.
It's a great cast.
Yeah. Who the fuck? It's somebody kind of popular. I can't remember. Make myself look like an idiot on there. But yeah, I remember she's in TerrorVision, and she's in a slew of other ones, always popping up in great roles. She got her start in the Andy Warhol, like New York style scene, which honestly I'm not.
Jennifer Richards played her, and she was. I'm not seeing anything that I really recognize her in aside from that. Yeah,
that's a bad one on my part. Yeah,
so was the rest of the cast.
Yeah, fucked up on that one, but hey, we all make mistakes. Woronov, though, I wasn't too familiar with her early work in the Andy Warhol stuff. You
Right.
know, I've never really gotten to Andy Warhol stuff. I watched the Paul Morrissey movies and enjoyed those, but I don't know if it has anything really to do with Andy Warhol, if that makes any sense.
Right. No, I mean, I think I had first seen her in Silent Night, Bloody Night.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then,
yeah.
Yeah, and then then from there, Eating Raoul, Death Race. She's fantastic. Both her and Paul Bartel are both fantastic in Hollywood Boulevard.
Tiny Roll and Chopping Mall together.
Oh yeah, I love their cameo.
Playing the same characters.
So
yeah, same characters. The one thing, a Silent Night, Bloody Night is like the super slow burn. It's weird. It's like if you want to fall asleep around Christmas with the fire in the background, it's a good horror movie to do so. It's not bad. It's not a bad movie. It's just I don't know how to recommend it.
It's pretty dull. Although, did you ever see her and Lynn Lowry in Sugar Cookies?
No, that one's
pretty. It's got a very cool feel to it. Again, it's a slow burn, but there's some really cool stuff going on in it. Plus, they're both naked in it, so you can't go wrong with that.
Was that distributed by Troma at one point, or is that
at one point? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I ever watched that. I actually skipped a lot of those Troma sex comedies before they got into making like the horror and exploitation. I don't think I saw any of the sex comedies. They had that box set that was released, but it had like some problems with the disc, so I never actually checked it out. Beltran or whatever, right? That was just his first breakthrough role.
It was, and initially Paul Bartel didn't want him for the role.
Yeah,
Paul Bartel had when he wrote the script, he had envisioned a kind of older gentleman to play Raoul, and Mary Woronov was furious about it. She's like, no, that wouldn't work with the character. Why would she go after an older guy? She's like, you need some young, attractive Latino stud to kind of to sway her away, and yeah, it was Mary Woronov's petitioning for Robert Beltran to play the role that got him the role in the first place.
Yeah, and he was a theater actor before this, and he said he played so many big roles, and then when he came to Hollywood, they were just like, all right, you got to play this, Latino guy, this drug dealer, and he's just like, what the fuck?
Right.
So basically, that's all he was kind of stuck with, but he's really brilliant in the movie. He delivers his lines with sincerity, and it really helps the comedy.
Oh yeah, he's great in that, and he's fantastic in Night of the Comet as well.
You know what? I barely remember him in Night of the Comet.
Yeah, both he and Mary Woronov are in that one.
Yeah. Is Paul Bartel in that or no?
He's not.
Mary Woronov plays one of the villains at the end.
What's that?
She plays one of the villains, one of the scientists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember her in it. I don't remember Robbie. And I remember the girls just want to have fun. That's about my memory of Night of the Comet. As much as I enjoyed it, it's not one that sticks in my head.
Right, exactly. It's kind of it's kind of one of those comfort movies where it's like, okay, if I want to throw this on in the background, great. If I want to actually watch something and pay attention to it, it's probably not going to be on the list.
How would you compare this to other films of the year, 1982, other horror films or anything like that, or any kind of black comedies?
Funny, because that was 82, right?
Yeah.
So that would have put in like The Thing, Creepshow,
Tenebrae, Halloween 3, New York Ripper.
That's the thing. I mean, it's funny because it really stands out as an oddity in that year. You know, I mean, I think around that time we were getting a little more comfortable with the idea of comedy being more prevalent in horror.
Yeah.
But this, you can't even necessarily, I mean, it's definitely got horror elements, but it's not a horror film. You know, it's just a very bizarre black comedy. So yeah, I think that's what really made this movie stick out, is there's nothing really, even within that decade, that has the same kind of look or feel of that movie.
The one thing that I will notice is kind of like how we go to Polyester, very much like Polyester from 81, but also 1980 had Motel Hell, and it has the swinger scene. And that little scene in that movie is like the entirety of Eating Raoul.
150%. And the thing that... Yeah. It does crack me up that was a common thing to poke fun of in the 80s, because the whole swinger scene from the 70s was really starting to die down. It was almost becoming a joke. You know, almost like the ton of disco jokes that we got in the 80s as well. It's like, well, this is a dying thing, so now we can make fun of it and get people behind it.
And they made all the swingers, they said, over the top completely on purpose, like satirical characters in the spot, which makes sense too, because As Frank Henenlotter said he did with Basket Case 2 and 3, he's like, when I made the freaks, I didn't want them to be realistic freaks because that's incredibly insensitive and shitty to do, like in the 90s and 80s. It's just like, it's way outdated. So he's like, although, you know, I don't see Paul Bartel as some like massive, like sexual, like, you know, person going out and doing all these crazy things, or even Mary Woronov, really. But I certainly don't think they cared what anyone else did in the privacy of their own home. You know what I mean? Like they said that Paul Bartel was obviously like, you want to go like see what the swinging lifestyle is? He's like, no, I don't want to see any of that. I don't care. Like basically he wasn't into it, but at the same time, like they definitely made the characters over the top and ridiculous. Like it's funny because the swingers weren't really like, you know what I mean? It was way dead. You know, 60s and 70s was that free love. No one was having free love in the 80s. That was all about greed and shittiness.
Well, and being terrified of dying from sex.
Yeah.
You know, that's what basically killed off the whole swinging swingers thing in the first place. Yeah. So the idea of them finally being able to kind of poke fun at something that was essentially had a foot in the ground, it was a great opportunity. That, and it also shares one of your and my favorite character actors, which was the real Don Steele, as Howard Swine, the host of the host of the party.
And he has actually he has probably the best scene in the movie. I meant to squeeze that in, but when he's just like, "What's the matter? Are you cold or you have VD?" And he's like, "Get in here," or something about swinging. He's swing on this, and he throws it. That's such a brilliant scene.
Such a great character actor, and I loved him in both Gremlins as well as Death Race 2000. But this is the movie where he really truly gets to shine, and he's fantastic at it.
Yeah, there's like a lot of good character actors in the movie that pop up in that swinger. The little lady who's like, they're in the dock. She's in a million things.
Edie McClurg, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff. But when we go
if I'm not mistaken, the majority of the people that were included in the swinger scene were members of the Groundlings, and that's how initially what was it? You had brought up Paul Rubens as the possibility as the sex shop owner. I'm willing to bet that because both he and John Paragon were members of the Groundlings, so I'm wondering if maybe that's how that came about. Maybe Paul had some kind of connection to them and started bringing them in from there.
The one thing too, we're talking about like the 70s, 60s, and 70s swinging culture dying. And they're basically killing all those people off and using them for like food and then like taking their money, which is a hilarious, ridiculous way. But what I also really like about it is, so they're like conforming to like the 80s greed or whatever they would say, the greed and capitalism. They want all the stuff they can get, right?
Right.
And they're going to do whatever it takes to get it. They want their little hole in the restaurant, their spot, their spot on earth, heaven on earth. And they're going to do anything to get it, you know, including killing a bunch of people and moving forward and stuff. So it's definitely a good transitionary movie too. And the early 80s is, like I said, filled with that, right? Like sci-fi's coming back. And the nihilism starting to die out. Movies are getting bigger budgeted, but they're playing more comedic elements into the darkness, right? You can't play this stuff straight anymore, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You can't have your Cannibal Holocaust and your House on the Edge of the Park from the early 80s in 82. It's kind of dying out.
Right. I mean, people, I think where a lot of cinema from the 70s was very, I mean, yeah, I'll even say in some cases mean-spirited. I think audiences were looking for hope, you know, and even if that hope comes in a form of parody, I think they were okay with it. And I think that's why dark humor and even comedy's revival in the 80s kind of came back. People wanted to laugh at that point. They were sick of being depressed.
Some of the scenes in here, like just some more dialogue. That's great. When we're talking about the porno scene or the sex shop, when he's like, it comes in cherry, lemon, and trail mix. Trail mix. That was a joke.
I was making a joke.
He's scary.
I just love the fact that Paul is a complete mess in that scene. And the clerk keeps cutting him off. And the one guy he yells out to in the back is like, hey, you taste it, you're going to buy it, okay?
Who the fuck? What was he tasting? Don't even want to know. He's going to want some blue with this. Like, if you must know, I'm buying this dildo as a gag.
Novelty cocktail stirrer.
Yeah. You can see him doing something like that, too.
I'm telling you, you're going to need a lubricant for this vibrator.
So how would you compare it to? I don't even want to compare it to any other '80s movies because it's nothing like that. How would you compare it to other couples killing movies, comedy killing movies? Is it better or worse than Psychos in Love?
It's better. I mean, again, I love Psychos in Love. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a better film. You know.
How would you compare it to Honeymoon Killers?
It's better. I mean, again, Honeymoon Killers came first, but just where Honeymoon Killers just has this constant feeling of dread, there's not a dull scene in Eating Raoul. You know?
Yeah, it's so fast paced. It's only 83 minutes, which you need to bring movies back like that. If you're a comedy, do not wear out your fucking welcome. If you're not
I'm the wrong person to talk to on that. I have never been able to successfully release a film from my own for less than an hour and 45. I'm trying desperately.
But if you made a comedy, like a comedy, would it be?
If I were to make a comedy, that prick's got to be in at least 85 minutes. 85 minutes tops.
Think of all the comedies you watch over and over again. You know what I mean? 80s movies are also starting to shorten the time when it comes to that kind of stuff. Also, probably because it was the video store era and they're just being cheap as fuck and trying to get one tape, and they're just like, we don't give a fuck. This is the infamous time of padding runtime of SOME movies like Sledgehammer, where we're going to go in the backyard and walk around in slow motion to pad the runtime for 5 fucking minutes, or what was that Last Slumber Party or some shit where it's like you just tell they're padding the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But what's some other ones here that I'm thinking of? Dual killer movies. Sweeney Todd.
Now, are we talking?
We're talking the '82 musical. I fell asleep musical? During the Tim Burton one.
Yeah,
twice.
Twice.
I was like, I'm not doing this.
Right. I'm embarrassed to say I've never sat down with the original Sweeney Todd. I saw the Tim Burton one. I did not care for the Tim Burton one, but yeah, I've never seen the original.
If you hate musicals, I don't know if you'll like it, but it's definitely one of the one. It's a gateway musical for sure. The lyrics
by that same
good.
Rationale, you have to keep in mind. I mean, I love Rocky Horror. Yeah. I love Frank Oz's Little Shop of Horrors. I love Shock Treatment. I love Phantom of Paradise.
Love that too.
Maybe it's just that time period I enjoy. So
yeah, those are actually some of my favorite musicals, to be honest. I love all those. Also, I love Cannibal the Musical is also a really good one.
Cannibal the Musical for me is fun. It's just not a repeat watch. You know, it's one of those.
That's a grow on you too. The first time I saw Cannibal the Musical, I was like, the fuck was that? Like I was just like, and then like a day later, I'm like, Spadoinkle, and then I'm like, oh, it's got me. It got me. It pulled me in. So this movie actually did, I think it was received pretty well critically. I know Ebert didn't love it, but honestly, when it comes to that kind of like genre film, I don't really give a fuck what Ebert thinks. He's always,
exactly.
He's just like weird takes that don't make any sense anymore. Like they're like, the thing's too gory. It's like when you're talking to like us, like who's just watching fucking like Day of the Dead, like, those intestines looked a little off. Maybe they left them out
but he
too
shit
long.
all over Day of the Dead too. So
but I mean, everybody shit on Day of the Dead because it wasn't Dawn of the Dead. But that's just the way it goes, you know. It wasn't the last thing that I watched that I liked. This wasn't E.T., so the thing's bad. This wasn't Dawn of the Dead, so it's bad. It's like it's just different, man. It's just different. But is there anything else you want to talk about Eating Raoul? I know it's a little short episode, but I don't have that much in-depth knowledge about the film except how quirky and fun and just I love how much I love it.
I think it's basically just one of those films that it never... I've yet to put on Eating Raoul, whether it be streaming or on the really fantastic Criterion disc that came out, and not watched it in its entirety. It's one of those that every single time you watch it, doesn't matter how many times you've watched it, it will suck you in. And I mean, I think you summed it up perfectly. There's so much incredibly funny dialogue, and it's just a movie that 100% across the board works.
It's not as exploitative. I don't think people might think it's a really nasty or gory or something, or even highly sexual. And it has like the sexual aspects, but it makes just fun of them the entire time.
I don't think there's a drop of blood in the entire movie. If I'm not mistaken,
is there even actual full nudity in the movie?
Mary Woronov has a topless scene.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I don't think there is.
We should mention the Dominatrix, who's actually one of the funniest
Doris
characters.
the Dominatrix?
She's hilarious because she's basically just very suburban and mundane in her
very
everyday
suburban,
life,
very
and nothing like the character. She's not even into it. She's not into any of it. It's just a gig
Right.
for her. So when she's hired to kind of follow Raoul around and try to scare him, that stuff is brilliant.
Oh, her as both the health worker as well as the immigration is
The Border Patrol is
absolutely
great.
hysterical.
We'll kick your ass back to the Rio Grande.
And it cracks me up too because it's like you can tell as her character she's having far more fun working for Paul doing recon than she ever did as the dominatrix. You know,
just a brilliant little movie that makes fun of all the weird sexual quirks and everything. You know, maybe people don't like it. I think people still like it nowadays, but I feel like a lot of the people that I was following on Letterboxd give it low ratings, and I'm just like, and then I read it's not transgressive enough, or maybe they're just like, this movie's kink shaming or something, and I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't subscribe to any of that. I mean, realistically, this has been my argument all along with that. It's like if we're going to go through every film of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was just a different time. You can't really count on that, you know? I mean, a perfect example, C. Thomas Howell film Soul Man will probably never in a million years get that on physical media or even streaming. But at the end of the day, I don't think there was anything malicious about that film at all. Yeah. I think it was just a different time, you know?
Yeah. But also, that's a Steve Miner movie, right? Yeah, I've never actually had any interest in watching it because it's not like I'm the world's biggest C. Thomas Howell fan. Not that I think he's bad, but it's just not a guy I would seek out. And I like Steve Miner, but I'm not going to seek out a non-Steve Miner horror film or genre film.
I love Leslie Nielsen, and he's in it. So it's like,
he's in that one?
That's why I was all about it.
Who's he playing?
And Ray Don Chong's in that as well, isn't she?
I don't know. I've never seen Soul Man.
Oh, I think it's been decades since I've seen it, but I remember loving it growing up. And now it's like, you'll never see that movie. It'll just never happen. And I think a lot of it is because we're coming off of a society that does not like to feel uncomfortable, does not like to be, doesn't like being poked fun at, doesn't have a sense of humor. I mean, it's sad, you know?
Yeah, usually my first reaction when something's supposed to be offensive is I laugh.
Right.
Not because I think it's like, that I agree with that. That's a nasty thing. I'm just like, can't believe they fucking did that. That's wild. Or that's so dated. That's embarrassingly funny for them. Like, that's just like, oh, fuck. Like,
right. Well, that's the thing. It's like, and I mean, this is me as an old man speaking, but it's like my take on comedy or even uncomfortable situations is to poke fun at it, because by poking fun at it, it kind of takes its power away.
Yeah.
That same thought process in 2025, that's a good way to kill your audience off. That's a good way to basically be like, you're just going to end up upsetting somebody now.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way when it comes to really heavy subjects about things that I dealt with in my life. Like, so I make jokes about inappropriate things. It's like, because I either laugh or cry, and I'm not crying in front of the public.
Right, exactly.
I am not. But we got way off eating Raoul.
We did. We got into something that I normally will not do, and it's
I don't want to even talk about it. Thanks a lot, James L. Edwards. You're just losing me subscribers left and right. This and the mistake about Mary Warnoff being the Elvira character in Terrorvision pretty much got me done. I'm done.
You've lost credibility.
I lost all my credibility. Like I said, this was one that I just wanted to talk about briefly. I really enjoy it, and I don't have any massive insight in it except that I find it an interesting movie that is not necessarily horror, but horror adjacent, and it carries on that feeling of the 50s being repeated through the 80s, and one of the most brilliant satires with two of the most comedically well-paced people on the movie. The timing's great. It's so brilliant, so subtle, but also at the same time laugh out loud hilarious. And how can a movie that involves a bunch of sexual fetishes, a bunch of attempted rapes, and cannibalism, and all sorts of messed up, twisted ideologies be so damn funny and soft-hearted? I don't know.
Don't forget about, what was it, grinding people up and making them turn them into dog food.
Yeah, which is right out of Soylent Green or something like that. That's the joke I always make about the old guys at my work. I'm like, off to the glue factory with you guys. Time to retire. But is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Just make sure to check out our recent film, Trivial, that came out a couple of months ago, streaming and Blu-ray and DVD. And I am currently, about probably a fourth way into production on our new film, Satan's Peak, which was from a screenplay from Rick Popko and Dan West of Monster fame. So,
Okay. Rick, what's that name? Is that the guy I think it is?
Rick Popko?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had done Monster. Speaking of politically incorrect, he had done Monstered and Retarded.
Yeah, yep. I don't think I ever watched them. I bought them back in the day when they were released. So looking at 1982 as a whole, if you compare it to the early 80s, where do you think it stands?
Oh, I think it's probably some of the best stuff out there. I mean, again, just having both Eating Raoul, The Thing, and Creepshow, and that's just, and as well as Halloween 3. What else had come out that year?
Tenebrae.
Tenebrae is phenomenal.
New York Ripper, Basket Case, Pieces. It's a strong year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a phenomenal. That would, in my opinion, between 82, I'd say, well, actually, between the first half of the 80s, I think is probably some of the best time in cinema, in horror cinema specifically.
When I was going through it, like I have all these master lists. 80 is incredibly strong and deep. 81 is one of the deepest years. It doesn't have all my favorites, but there's at least like 50 good horror movies from 1981, which is really hard to do. And then 82 is very top heavy. You have like 15 fucking classics and then like some good ones, but not. And then 83 and 84 kind of have a fall off, like in terms of depth. And then 85 is really strong and 86 is strong. 87 and 88 have tons of good movies, like too many because the video stores are clouded. It's like 400 good, like, you know what I mean? Like 400 movies to watch and like 100 good ones, but the highs are high, but I don't know if they're, you know, your number 10 is going to be something like, you know, Maniac is like number 5 in 1980. It's not even in the top, you know what I'm saying? There's so many good horror movies in 1980. Maniac is number 1 in almost any other year. Really.
Well, a lot of that too, I have to say that it more than likely was because by the mid 80s, the censorship board was getting so strong, and the MPAA was coming down really hard on horror because of what they had seen in the late 70s and early 80s. So,
yeah. You know, I should mention this too. It's very strange. So they're like in Eating Raoul, they're a sexless couple. They don't have sex. Yes. They never do, and they're very much the sitcom kind of 50s reincarnation of that style. But if you look at almost all those kind of duo comedy, like those comedy pairing, it's like there's sex, but it's all like awkward and almost innocent, like how it's portrayed. It's not like super passionate sex or like raunchy, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not even in Badlands. Like you don't really see like
it's off kilter. Crazy. Yeah.
It's a very childish. It's very childish. Like their sexual like outputs are very childish.
No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I never really thought about that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's like you don't think of those movies as like, oh, that's hot and passionate, like lovemaking, right? You're just like, it's just like two weird, awkward, lonely people fucking trying to make it through life. All right, I appreciate you doing this.
Oh, are you kidding? I love coming on, and I'll be happy to come any day, anytime.
That's just out of context. I'll be happy to come any day.
I'll be happy to come any. That's going to be the soundbite from this piece. Misremembering Mary Woronov.
I've seen TerraVision like 30 times, and I was like, and then right when you said the mother, I was like, oh, I had her pictured in the head, popping out of the monster under the bed.
Now, in your defense on that, I 100% could see Mary Woronov playing that role.
Yeah, like you think that should have been her instead of the mother, but she's great too. Which is funny because she actually plays a swinger in TerraVision, but she kills swingers in Eating Raoul. That's very fun casting for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's French. No, actually, it's more Spanish.
So tender.
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing what you can do with a cheap piece of meat if you know how to treat it.
And of course, the right wine always helps.
I'll drink to that.
Now I know why Mother taught me to be true. She meant me for someone exactly like you.
You don't understand who you're dealing with. I'm a hot-blooded, emotional, crazy Chicano.
Swing on we can! Yeah? Well, swing on this.